Six habits successful people avoid. If you've ever had the pleasure of being around a successful person long enough, you'll discover that they don't live like average people. To those who don't understand what it takes to be successful, they may appear boring and rigid because of how disciplined they are. But that's the key to their success. They are extremely self disciplined. The main reason for this is they cultivate good habits instead of bad ones. If you want more success in your life, here are six habits you should avoid. 1. Checking your phone every 5 minutes. My mentor is a very successful real estate investor, and when he first started working with me, I would send him several text messages per day, and he wouldn't respond. I got offended because I thought he was ignoring me. He would either respond after 7 p.m. or not at all. I thought he was extremely rude, and so I confronted him about it. His response was, "I check my phone for messages once a day for an hour. If I can respond to all of my messages during that time, I will. If not, I won't. One day, you'll understand why I do this." He didn't stutter. He didn't apologize. I could take it or leave it. It took me a while, but eventually, I understood why he checked his phone once a day. Basically, our phones are a major distraction, especially now that they have everything we need on them. If we keep checking our phones, we will never get anything done. According to one study, 57% of Americans check their phones approximately 144 times per day. That is a tremendous amount of time spent glued to a screen. When I learned this, I started paying attention to my phone habits, and I was a part of the statistic. Eventually, I adopted my mentor's strategy of checking my phone once a day for an hour, and my productivity soared. 2. Watching too much TV. Television is another screen that Americans are addicted to. According to Statista.com, U.S. adults spend an average of almost 3 hours per day watching TV. After work, instead of writing my book, I'd plonk myself in front of the TV until it was time for bed. And that is what the average person does. Hence the reason why the majority of the world's wealth is owned by 1% of the population. The other 99% of people are stuck behind screens watching the 1% win. Imagine what you could achieve with an extra 3 hours per day. I know what I achieved. I was able to write a book within 1 year. It's not that successful people don't watch any TV. They just don't watch too much TV. 3. On social media all day. Social media will steal all of your time if you allow it to, which is why successful people don't bother with it. Well, what about all the celebrities and super rich people with millions of followers? Obviously, they're on social media. Well, that's correct. They do have social media accounts, but they don't run them. They create the content, give it to their team, and they deal with it. The difference between the successful and the unsuccessful people when it comes to social media is that successful people use it to further themselves. Unsuccessful people use it to hinder themselves. Scrolling is a waste of time. Even if you use social media for 1 hour per day, that's 7 hours per week. Imagine what you could do with that time. 4. They don't try and fit in. Recently, I was mocked for not knowing who a certain popular celebrity is. I won't mention her name. I find it very interesting because, really, I should have been mocking them for knowing who the celebrity is because it lets me know what they find valuable and what they spend their time doing. The mocking took place in front of a group of people with the intention of trying to shame me. I didn't care. I had no desire to fit in with them. Successful people don't try and fit in because they know who they are and they don't need external validation. Do you know how exhausting it is trying to be a part of the in crowd? You can use all that energy to work on your goals instead of devoting your time to trying to be someone you are not. 5. They don't break their focus. Successful people are completely focused on their vision, and they don't care what anyone has to say about it. They will lock themselves up for weeks, months, or even years until what they can see in the invisible realm becomes visible. It's not uncommon for successful people to be labeled as crazy because of how hard they work. To the average person, it is not normal. This is one of the reasons successful people lose friends when they're on their way to the top. They dedicate all their time to working on their vision. Everything and everyone else gets pushed to the sidelines, and whoever doesn't like it can kick rocks. Successful people are not people pleasers. They are exceptionally selfish and don't feel guilty about saying no. During an interview, founder of the Virgin Group, Sir Richard Branson, spoke about the power of staying focused on your vision and told a story about an important project he was working on. He kept on getting phone calls from an individual offering him a very high fee to speak at his event. He told the secretary to tell the guy he was interested, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. He kept calling and raising the price. He eventually offered over $1 million for Branson's time. Although tempting, Branson declined. Most people are not going to turn down $1 million to speak at an event, but his reason for doing so was that he didn't want to break his focus on his project. Doing anything else would have knocked him off course, and he wasn't going to let that happen. On the other hand, unsuccessful people are constantly breaking their focus. They always have something to do or somewhere to go that has nothing to do with the project they are working on. When I started writing my first book, I would abandon everything for a friend. I always had a birthday party, a christening, a wedding, or a night out to go to. This went on year after year until I learned how to stay focused on my goals by saying no to unnecessary invites. 6. Arguing over everything. Successful people choose their battles wisely. They simply don't have time to argue over every foolish thing that happens. I'm not saying that successful people don't argue. Of course they do. But it's not something they make a habit of. In comparison to the average person, they are more likely to let things slide. They consider arguing a waste of energy and would rather spend it on achieving their goals. If you want to be successful, you will need to make a lot of sacrifices. These 6 habits that successful people avoid are just the tip of the iceberg. They live very different lives to the average person. I find it interesting that successful people are both admired and hated at the same time. People admire the lifestyles they live and would be more than happy to live that way if they could afford it. But the public also accuse them of being greedy and selfish and say things like, "There's no need to spend so much money on these luxury items when there are children starving in the world." While it is true that there are children starving, it is also true that a hard-working person has the right to spend their money on whatever they please. Successful people earn the privilege to buy what they want by doing what everyone else refuses to do. Rant over. But seriously, guys, let's try our best to do better. You can have whatever you want out of life if you're willing to do the work. Nothing of value comes easy, and if you want to live the life of your dreams, changing your habits is essential. I can testify to this. The 5 habits I've just mentioned were once an important part of my life. I felt as if a part of me was missing if I didn't have my phone in my hand. But once I ditched these habits, my productivity went through the roof. Bad habits are difficult to break, but you can do it if you persevere. One of my favorite sayings is a Japanese proverb: Fall down 7 times, get up 8. In other words, never give up. If this video has helped you in any way, smash the like button, share it with friends and family, and if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe and turn on your post notifications so you are alerted every time I post a new video.